Welcome back, everyone, to your favorite movie review channel, Man Cinema Reviews. Back at it. You know what time it is. Gave you my top 20 best films of 2023. Now I gotta give you my disappointments. But before we do that, go ahead and press like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell as well. You know what to do. Thank you very much for choosing Man Cinema Reviews. Now, my dishonorable mentions, and I'm going to let you know beforehand that some of these films that I'm going to be mentioning, I didn't review, but I did review and had every intention of reviewing them, but somehow lost in the shuffle and probably wasn't worth it. Let's go ahead and go into my dishonorable mentions, and that is The Boogeyman. Again, these are films that, again, nowhere near the bottom, just were films that were disappointing because they were films that I was intrigued with, but again, nowhere near the bottom of the barrel. Not saying that my top 10 disappointments are the bottom of the barrel, but just disappointments altogether. And Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny, we have Evil Dead Rises, which a lot of people liked, and I thought it was okay. A little bit overrated. Don't at me, just these are my views. Mafia Mama, Missing, hey, Searching. Have you seen it? I just think if you saw that film, it's a better film. And no stranger to the dishonorable mentions, Fast X. Hey, it's not on my top 10. There you have it. At number 10, films that were the lesser are definitely feeling superhero fatigue. At number 10 is Shazam, The Fury of the Gods. Again, the first film I really enjoyed, but this film is a little too late. I know that it was plagued with reshoots and delays, all surrounding Black Adam and the exploits of that film, but it suffers due to it. I think that the first film was great, but definitely the lesser of the two. Rachel Ziegler adding to the cast. It's no matter. I just didn't really buy into this sequel. Unfortunately, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, just didn't captivate me or intrigue me, no less. Number 9, a little bit of the same thing. And now, with Jonathan Majors and his downfall, if you will, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, just really, again, a film that suffers from just comic book fatigue, I really think. But this film was nowhere near its predecessors. The first film, Ant-Man and the Wasp, it's just caught in a trilogy that I cared less and less about with the films that follow. And like I said, Jonathan Majors is actually the best thing that has it going for this film. And in fact, if you look at the criticisms and the Rotten Tomatoes and the Metacritic score and just your average viewer, they would say that Jonathan Majors saves this film. And they can't wait to see the great trajectory of Jonathan Majors as King. Unfortunately, because of his case, he no longer is King and definitely will have to be recast. But like I said, Kang's the best thing in this film. Everything else was meh at best. Number 8, Blue Beetle. Don't at me, I know. The first Latino superhero, DC, I just thought fumbled with this film. Did you see the computer generated images for this? The CGI is terrible to me. It definitely is bottom of the barrel. They wouldn't do this to Batman, they wouldn't do this to the Man of Steel, but they did this to Blue Beetle, and it suffers for it. I really think that they didn't prioritize Blue Beetle, and the cast and crew can only do so much, even with cliche scenes, and I just think that the stereotypes of Latinos are captured in this film. It's no matter. I just thought that the film was rather boring. Going on to number 7, Renfield. Again, Nick Cage doing Nick Cage things. Being Dracula, I know that he wanted to be Dracula his whole career. Came close to Dracula territory with his uncle Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula back in the 90s. But again, didn't want to be pigeonholed or, as, Nepo baby, if you will, back then. He finally is Count Dracula in this film. Not saying that he's bad in it. In fact, he's probably the best thing in this film. But this film suffers from just cliche after cliche, terrible writing, characters that I can care less about. If you're not here for Dracula, it should have been called Dracula. Renfield does his thing, but I care less about him. It's all about Dracula in this film, and you know it. Nick Cage actually does a pretty good Dracula if you want to check it out. Renfield at number 7. Number 6. Again, this was actually a well-received film, and this was a film that I definitely, once I saw the trailer to it in theaters, I thought, hey, can't wait to see it. I must have missed me at theaters because I didn't catch it, but I did catch it streaming, and that is Theater Camp. To me, this was a 2-hour-long mockumentary that wasn't nearly as funny as it thinks it is. To me, it does capture the theater kids and that whole, community. I just think that this film was definitely unfunny. It didn't catch me at all with the laughs, and in fact, didn't really pique my interest until the third act. The final act actually saves the film. But to me, this film was very meh. And if I would have reviewed it, probably would have gave it 1.5 star. I really didn't care for Theater Camp. Going on to the next film, at number 5, another film that I did not review, must have been lost in the shuffle, like I said, a Netflix film at that, and that is Reptile. This is the reteaming of Benicio del Toro and Alicia Silverstone. Actually, these two were actually great in it, but it's a cliche thriller. You see it coming from the beginning, and who done it. Co-stars Justin Timberlake. I'm actually a fan of JT, but he has caught some flack, and therefore I think you could see why Trolls hasn't really performed as well as it should have. But again, hey, you got caught in the crossfire, JT. Happens to the best of us, I guess. But I think that this is probably one of my least favorite JT appearances on screen. Like I said, a thriller that you see coming a mile away, and just wasn't really all that great. And outside a Dr. Dre What's the Difference reference, I really didn't care for it. Reptile would have gotten a 1 star from your boy. Going on to number 4, Family Switch. Okay, affable and amiable casting of Ed Helms and Jennifer Garner. This is a Freaky Friday, but with the whole family. The mom and daughter switch, the father and son switch. I don't care. I felt like if you wanted to see that, you would have saw Freaky Friday, and it works better there. I think this is Hulu original, maybe. I know it was at streaming because it didn't go to theaters. No matter. Directed by Mick G. What does that tell you? I'm not trying to knock you, Mick G, but you really don't have a great track record. Charlie's Angels, Full Throttle, Terminator Salvation, This Means War. I mean, come on. This is definitely a product of Mick G. And I really couldn't tell, but by the end of it, when I saw the end credits directed by Mick G, I said, there you go. That explains a lot. Going on to the next film, number 3, The Machine. I'm sorry, but Bert Kreischer, I love, just your whole aura and just you as a stand-up, as a podcaster, an all-around human being. But you coming to tell your faux mafia story, how you blew up, and basically that was your calling card coming up on stand-up comedy. But I don't think that really translated on the big screen, because the laughs were few and far between, and I'm sorry, just the exploits of you and Mark Hamill in Russia, I could do without. Wasn't nearly as funny as it ought to be. The Machine. There you have it. Going to my top 2 disappointments. At number 2, it was number 1 for the longest. I almost forgot about it. It was one of the first films that I reviewed at the top of 2023, and that is She Came from the Woods. This was a B-level horror film, very cliche 80s style, and I guess I catch some flack with B-level 80s schlock. I mean, if you're there for it, there is definitely a audience for it, and people clamor for it, and people will go at bat for it and damn near defend it. But to me, just lesser of the films that came before it, and all the films that wear its influences on its sleeve are far greater. I just think that this was a boring, cliche, corny, indie horror film, and that was what I thought about it. Going on to the number 1, and you should already know by my reception and my review of how I felt about it. The Exorcist, Believer. I really hope that David Gordon Green doesn't go on to make 2 more films, because I really couldn't sit through this film. I will say that the opening was surprisingly well done, had a great opening, but once we get into the second, third act, boy, does it just go downhill. It takes a complete nosedive. And so far, I am liking it far less than I liked David Gordon Green's Halloween films. So there you have it. Exorcist is definitely the bottom of the barrel for me in 2023. But did you see any of these films? What was your take on them? Did I get it wrong? Please don't at me. But again, these are not the worst films, but they were my disappointments of 2023. Thank you very much for choosing Mad Cinema Reviews, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.